start with the apologies and reasons for absence.
Councillor Benning is not well, but it's not.
Yes.
And Borough Councillor Burgess can't either. Lee Phelan was willing to come, but there wasn't anything major to report.
Right.
So I did check with her.
Yeah.
So I said, no, right, that's what I thought.
Indeed. Does anyone have any interests to declare, peculiar or other than? I don't think so. Nobody?
No.
Okay, so no applications needed. And a reminder to everybody that the meeting is being recorded for publication on the internet, which will be on YouTube, hopefully in a week or so. I'll now then adjourn the meeting for the public session, which is the time when people can talk from the public. And we usually go straight, first of all, to the planning applications. So does anyone here on the public side want to talk about Meadowgate in Palstrey Court Road? No? Okay, good. Poplar Farmhouse in Poplar Road?
Yes, I'm
That's your house, of course, isn't it?
Right.
That's your house?
That's right. I'm David Williams and I live there. Yes.
Indeed. Okay, David, tell us a little bit about your application, if you would, or maybe you don't need to. We've seen the papers.
Seen the papers.
We've seen the
Yes.
papers, yes.
Submitted by Jonathan Gale, and the introduction which explains the reason for application, together with the drawings. The key to this application actually is based upon the location of the side gate to the back door of Poplar House, which is the standard method of entry into the house, essentially. Because across the road from that gate is a parking area where we normally park our car, and the entrance into the garages. And that's a key to the proposal, really. We've lived there for 40 years now, quite a long time, and we're accustomed to using that gate and the car when I described. But of course times have changed, and the first thing to change in recent years was the erection of Owen Swetman's bungalow, the back end of our garden, used to be our garden, which of course we used to have total access, private access to that driveway with our car parked where it was. Owen Swetman of course has added to the traffic on that road, one or two cars maybe, and the postman who inevitably drives up there pretty quickly. The milk delivery man who would one time caused £1,000 worth of damage to the back end of our car, that's by the way. So we've become accustomed to going out to that gate and looking left or right a little bit because of the possibility of an inspection driving down there. What has changed recently, and the cause for this application, is the fact, of course, as you're aware, that the planning permission has now been granted to build a house on what we call the paddock. Part of the garden essentially. It's a 5-bedroom house, and admittedly hindsight, clearly is hindsight. Now been pointed out to me recently, in fact, that of course building that house would inevitably be more cars going up and down that drive. It's a 5-bedroom house. I suppose it might anticipate 3 or 4 cars probably, I suppose, parked up there. So we got to the point where we could now anticipate having 4, maybe 5 private cars using that roadway, together with the milkman, the postman, and whoever else comes along. So the road is really looking to be quite busy in the future. As been pointed out to me that, and some of you may know that the gate I'm talking about, when you walk from our back door up the path, through that gate, you are immediately, in fact, on the road. And I said earlier, in fact, we have to take a little bit of care, even us, after having spent 40 years living there, to make certain that the road is clear before we step across. It has now occurred to us, I say, admittedly with hindsight, that there are so many cars going up and down that road. And given the fact that we are accustomed to living there and have done for a very long time, and are accustomed to looking left and right, if you like, be careful, as most people are, of course. Any future occupants of our house, and we're getting on a little bit actually, at some stage in the future, it's bound to be so. And the comments I've had from other people about that gate and its effect are probably living there and of the road, the cars coming down that road, is of concern. And certainly I've raised concern to myself, clearly, that the possibility of people admittedly leaving our back door and going through that gate and being struck by a car or something going down that road actually rather larger than one thought. I'm concerned, I suppose, actually morally, if you like, that any possibility of somebody coming to live in our house in the future, with children possibly, who have access to that gate and go onto that road, stand the danger of being run over, literally. That's of some, has to give some concern. And it seems to me that really that gate wants to be locked. Not permanently, because in fact the access to the back of the house will mean that somebody, commercial vehicles will occasionally have to come up that drive to give access to our house and deliver whatever it may be, but locked on a pretty firm, permanent basis. So to that extent, therefore, we decided that the only way to ensure that in fact people living in that house were safe from damage on access to that road was to put a garage in the front of our lawn on the right-hand side, using the current access point from the main road, so that our own house, Poplar House that is, and its own cars were enclosed within its own curtilage, and that the people living in the house to be built on the paddock will have total control over that drive and therefore no possibility of hopefully hitting people living in Poplar Farmhouse. So that's the reason actually for putting forward the proposal in the first place. Having said that, I would go on to discuss the entrance to the drive, but do you want to ask me questions of what I said so far?
I'll ask you some to start with. When you've been talking about the road, just to be clear, when you've been talking about the road, you do mean the lane up
the road,
part of the house.
it's becoming a semi-road because we're going to have...
The little lane.
Yeah.
Okay, and your back door that you talk about is on the north side of the house?
It's the northeast, yes.
Northeast.
Northeast, yes.
Okay. Right.
Up the back door, up the pathway through that gate.
Yeah, you just mentioned that the new house, the 5-bedroom, would have total control of the drive.
Well,
presumably
yes,
Mick Swetman has access up it as well, doesn't
and so I cut you out. I do beg your pardon. I cut out part of their sentence. Could you repeat that?
That Mick Swetman will also use that,
yes,
lane. Okay, it'll be the 5-bedroom and Mick. And if you have special deliveries, but that will only be once in a while. Understand? Okay. I understand about putting the garage in front. We've seen the drawings. One thing that there seems to have been a bit of confusion about in other people's minds, unless I'm wrong, I think that you are going to wall instead of the hedge that goes up your side.
No, actually, we had a visit today from Mrs. Buxton, who was with Mr. Chisholm, and right. She was a bit concerned. She spoke to me yesterday on matters I really couldn't understand, I confess, and she came along with Mr. Chisholm today with the drawings, and we went through the proposals which the architect had put together, and which you have on the drawings, and he assured her in the end that there's no question of affecting in any way the boundary which affects her property.
Sure, I thought that.
Totally.
I just wanted you to clarify that. That's what I'm saying, that it's your side of the lane that you're going to put a wall in instead of a hedge. And by doing so, you will also nick back a little bit of space so that the lane can be a little bit wider than if the hedge grows into it.
Yes, not a great deal. The road is already at 3.7 metres wide, which is the requirement, except at the entrance.
Right.
And when the proposal to build the paddock went through, Ashford required that we widen the entrance to 3.7 metres. And that's part of the plan.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Williams?
Not at this stage.
Well, I will go on the moment actually to talk about the entrance, but it might be interest you. But nevertheless, the point about this gate, which is fundamental to their exercise.
That's your gate coming into your front.
Gate, which goes from the back of the house, is the common point of entry from the house onto the road and normally onto our car and the garage. That's the focus of this discussion from my point of view anyway, because that's the problem area. And that's where we've now identified the fact that it really can't be left like that.
No.
That people must not be expected to use that gate and get onto that road with every possibility of being struck by a car coming from the right. So that's I want to go on to talk about the entrance. It might be of interest to you, only because you raised a point already, but I can elaborate on what's
the entrance to the new garage.
No, to the lane.
Okay.
Road, Cornwall with. No, yes, well, that's part of that, certainly, yes, I can come on to that. Shall I go on to that area now? The bottom of the drive, the entrance, the entrance to the I'm going to call it the road, lane, what's called actually, but it's a driveway. The entrance to the driveway from the road, which has to be widened anyway, because actually the Borough Council wanted that, from 3.4 to 3.7 metres. Not the only way, there are ways, of course, of breaking into the wall which runs across the front of our property and making a car space, but that seemed unreasonable. And in discussion with the architect, it seemed the best way, in fact, was simply to, rebuilding the wall on the left-hand side, the curvature, which is away from Mr. Buxton's property, our side, not her side, to extend that curvature and then break the wall, there's no wall to break into it, but to remove the fencing there and break into our garden at that point. The important thing about that is, which the architect certainly has summarised in his notes, that our house, that Poplar farmhouse, quite an extensive range of tree along the boundary. Going along that road, there's quite a bit of little woodland. It's about, not very big, 15 yards wide probably, with many trees. And he was keen not to affect or spoil in any way the frontage of the house as far as the trees were concerned, and therefore as far as the aesthetic looks of the area were concerned to neighbours. So that's a major point, exactly a major point anyway. It certainly in fact affected the way in which the designs were proposed. The cars coming along the main road will then turn left into our driveway, as it is now, and turn right almost immediately. A slightly tight corner, and would have been preferable from the motoring point of view to have taken a bit more of the wall and have a less sharp right turn. But it's acceptable what is being proposed, and it does mean, in fact, we do not interfere with the woodland, which is frontage to the house. Okay. The car turn right, go into hard standing, and then we are proposing a brick wall. There'll be a gap, of course, from the curvature coming from the road. Then there'll be a 5 metre wide gate to give us the width to get the cars in, and then a brick wall. The brick wall will extend from the garage up to the back gate, which we talked about at length earlier, yes. Because there's an existing 6 foot high wall from the very top of the property, straight on its end, down to this gate we talked about. And that will complete the wall all the way along that side. That's good. The wall will also form the basis of one wall of the garage, which will be essentially made from timber, oak. Yep. With a peg tile roof, with up and over doors, straightforward in that sense. Right. And there'll be double garage, parking for 2 cars in there, and parking additionally on the hard standing for 2 more.
Good. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Williams?
Can I just say, when I hear what Mr. Williams is saying, I would have thought that was too tight a turn.
It's a bit tight, but
it looks it on the plans. It looks.
But the alternative is to come closer to the main road and take away a bit more of that wall, which is, from an aesthetic point of view, it looks nice from people outside, and I suppose to an extent, actually, I may think people living around us don't want the thing to be disturbed too much, because
you are taking down trees, but they're not the ones on the front, I think is correct. None slightly further back.
There's one pine tree which will have to be taken down. That's on the parking area, and there are a half dozen trees. Not half dozen. There are 3 or 4 trees which are sort of bush height, which will have to come down, but they're fairly minor. And clearly, we would in any case replant along the line of internal parking area to make that look more tidy and more attractive from a house point of view.
I'm just relying on a bit of memory here, and I might be at fault. Isn't your house listed Grade 2?
It is, yeah.
It is, yes. Okay.
Mm.
And I take
Allegedly
it
1500s or so, I'm not quite sure.
part of it, the original, the
Just
inside bit, yes. And the I take it that there are reasons, I can't think of now, looking back at it, exactly what it looks like. You can't use the front gate of your premises satisfactorily. It's better to go up the lane and turn in. But incidentally, I should say, we're not here to consider an application we haven't got.
No.
We're here to consider the application we have got. But I'm just wondering why you didn't do that.
Yeah, well, the architect did suggest we could actually come in from the road and go across, put the garage on the other side, actually, really across from Mr. Sykes' garage in your corner, Colin, to match that, if you like. But that, of course, would have destroyed a large part of the front lawn. Whereas tucking it as we have in that far corner, it's relatively undisturbed. The lawn all looks more or less as it is now.
Okay.
The front gate actually probably wouldn't be, strictly speaking, wide enough anyway, actually, to meet requirements of delivery wise.
I think if you'd gone to where the gates are, the original one, it would be, unless half the wall came down, you would have the same difficulty in getting around the corner.
Okay,
It's simple.
Right, anything else?
No, but finishing off that point, I mean, in some respects we would prefer to bring that wall, the curving wall, closer to the road, giving us a less of a sweep into the parking area. But for the reason I described, we thought leave it like that. Aesthetically, it looks rather better as we're designing it.
Right, okay, thank you very much for that. So that's Hopper Farmhouse. Is there anyone here from Mains?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello there.
Are you the owner or the...
I am the owner, Andrew Waite, yes, pleased to meet you. Yeah, basically, we're looking at a single story extension on the side, as you've probably seen the plans already. We've been in the property just over a year, and obviously looking to put our own stamp on it, as it were. And the kitchen we feel is slightly small for us, and we've got a small family, and my wife loves cooking, and obviously needs a new kitchen straight away. And we're looking to open up the property because we do a lot of entertaining as well. So it's at the moment the ground floor is lots of small little boxes, and we're looking to open it up a little bit on the ground floor. The upstairs is fine, but downstairs just needs opening up really. So, yeah, French doors overlooking the garden because we're keen gardeners as well. We like getting out in the garden and doing that as well. So that's our main idea. So yeah, I've got not a lot else to say really. I mean that is the main objective really.
Yeah.
But so yeah.
Okay. And you're not doing anything in the corner that's in Wittersham?
No. No.
I think
That's right. The house is in stone and the garden's in Wittersham. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll move the stone along.
Right, okay. And you only came to listen, I believe, you said to us before we started.
Yes, I've just come to listen to what
Indeed.
Mr.
I mean, if you have
Williams
anything to say, please do.
No, I'm quite satisfied.
Okay. Does anyone, any of the three of you, or two of you without the lady then, want to say anything else about anything on the agenda or future agendas?
I don't think so.
Okay,
No.
so can I close the public session then? Okay, thank you. So that's that. We'll go back to our meeting. You are, by the way, all welcome to stay as long as you can stand it. You don't have to leave. You can't say anything anymore unless I adjourn the meeting again and invite you to, but if something particular came up, but you are entitled to stay and listen as long as you wish. Okay, so we'll confirm the minutes. Does anyone have anything to say about the minutes of the last meeting?
No.
No. So can I sign them?
Yes.
Thank you. Good. Matters arising, the offer of the free saplings.
Yes, we have the saplings now. I had an email from Ashford to say that not all the parishes had actually taken up the offer, so they had some spare trees.
Like how many?
Well, they didn't say, but if I didn't say no, we didn't want them, they were going to divide them out. So instead of 10 trees, we have 21 trees.
Well done.
So they were delivered last Friday, And I've asked Alf, so they are labelled so we know what we've got. We've got 4 oak trees, 3 beech, 2 rowan, 6 birch and 6 of the field maple. Well, Alf has sent me the photos. They're sort of not very big on the
Tender.
spindly side, because I said that we've got 20 stakes they've provided for 21 trees. So I said, so which trees can go out without? And Alf said that, well, looking at some of them, probably Lee could provide a bit of spaghetti to hold it up. So. But what we've got to do, obviously, is decide where they're going to go.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 oaks, are my concern,
Yes.
and even the beech trees and the rowan could get, but the oak trees are.
Yes. Right.
Alf has suggested putting some together, you know, to sort of form a little. It's whether we got the bottom of the cemetery, obviously, because it's not going to be on our lands. We're talking about bottom of the cemetery, Coronation Field, and Memorial Garden.
Gardens, yeah.
Bottom of the new cemetery as well, of course,
Yes.
potentially.
Yeah.
That's a screen.
Potentially.
Okay, well, the only thing is they've got to be done fairly, they're bare rooted, but
Yes.
they've got to be done fairly quickly.
Yes, but on the other hand, the ground isn't right to plant them either.
No.
The trouble is that when the ground becomes right, it'll become right very fast and then not be right again.
I have just moved 2 young oak from my little wood into the middle of the field,
Yeah.
and that was about a month ago. We've had really heavy rain and wind since then, and they're doing okay. I mean, you've got to state that.
Well, so we have got stakes, but apparently the stakes are only about this
Yeah.
big.
Not much use.
And guards, there are guards provided
Mhm.
as well. And one, it says 3 bags of compost here, but we have got 2. But outside that, compost isn't important.
Okay.
But I was going to suggest that, you know, I mean, if anybody can think of anything, and also consult our tree wardens.
Yes, I'm just going to say that, you know,
Yeah.
to consult the
Yes.
tree warden.
Yes,
Had you not
because-
done that? I thought we had done
Well,
that.
yes,
With
but-
general terms, aren't
but
we?
That was
It's
for less.
again, until we knew what trees we
Yeah.
got,
Yeah,
so
right,
it's
yeah,
difficult
yeah.
to say.
That was our problem before.
Yes, but now that we know,
Yeah.
and obviously when we were counting the trees, they both, you know, both our old and new tree wardens were going round, so they know the areas that we've
Yeah,
got as
something
well.
like so they ought to just be able to adapt what they said before.
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're happy if I...
Yeah,
Oh,
fine,
sure.
sure.
Okay, on.
It's a nice thing to have.
Yeah. We've also got the bottom end, that's to say the southern end of Coronation Field, haven't we, down where the wood.
Actually, if you like to pass that round, that's how they've sort of come. That's how they look in the little bag.
Exciting.
Good. Hold on.
Like small twigs.
Yes, exactly, that's what.
They're called whips, aren't they? That's
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the word, that's the word I've used.
Yes, whips.
Oh,
They will grow.
Good.
Right, does anyone else have anything that they thought was a matter arising that we didn't think of?
No.
No? Okay, so we'll move on from there to the planning applications that we've just heard a bit about. First one is Meadowgate, Palstrey Court Road. This is the refurbishment and building on the
Yeah.
floor of a house. Who would like to start us off with that? Yes, Alan.
I think the neighbours think it's quite an imaginative design, and I suppose that includes me because I'm a neighbour, although it is half a mile away. But
When you've got your telescope out.
right, there's a bit of a I can't see, but no, I think it's. I suppose the only concern is, I think Meadowgate still possibly got an agricultural restriction.
no.
No,
No,
it's
that was lifted.
Okay.
Yes, we had an application in probably 2 or 3 years ago now.
Right.
That lifted.
I know there was a time when there was a dilemma over it, it didn't go through.
No, as I say, it was second time of asking.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, otherwise, I think it's probably quite an imaginative design.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, and it's far enough back
Yeah.
from the
I've
road.
Enough for that.
Yeah. I certainly got no objections. I would agree with you.
Leslie?
Well, just looking at it very quickly now, I think it's rather nice.
Yeah.
So,
It's totally different. I mean, it's not like anything else that we've
Yeah.
got.
no.
I think it's quite interesting because you know, in the AONB, you know, things aren't supposed to this and that and the other, and it really is going to, apart from being well back from the road, it is going to show up as something really avant-garde. On the other hand, most council policies, I believe, I haven't gone looking for it in Ashford, usually say that they welcome high quality architecture.
Yes.
And I'm not capable of knowing whether it's high quality or not, but it's certainly different.
It's got a planted roof, so that's
It
contributing
has that,
to
yeah.
greenery.
And I
Indeed.
think it will sort of form part of the landscape.
Yeah,
It
I think
was
so.
quite anonymous. And
The one worry I did have was that they wanted to put solar panels on the roof, and it's a flat roof, and it struck me that they may be, as they usually do, standing up at about 30 degrees, and so no matter what the line of the house is, you will actually see all the solar panels standing up on the top.
that's something we're
Unless
going
it's got the sort of, you know, the old classical idea where the walls go up higher and the roof comes back down lower again. Oh, sorry, it'd be that way. wouldn't it?
I think it's something we will get increasingly used to
Yeah,
seeing. as
I
part
think
of
you
the
will do
landscape.
as time goes on.
Yeah.
Even with that proviso, I still would want to approve it.
They're not surprising anymore, and you see them so often now that it's not really...
No, it's not the case of seeing a solar panel. You can see them on all sorts
Yeah.
of roofs. It's the fact that if you've got a house that's been designed by the architect to have a particular look to it, and instead of having that look, yes, it's a bit like the office blocks that have very nice architecture, but they always have cradles hanging here and there to do the windows. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, apart from that, so everyone's happy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, so we can support that. Okay. Now we come then to Poplar Farmhouse. Who wants to start with us?
Can I just say that I've had, out of the
Oh,
ones that I
yes.
sent down, I've had one response from a neighbour
I think we've all
with
seen that. Yeah, we have all seen it, yes.
with no objection.
Oh, a different one.
Yes,
Exactly.
Apart from the one that we sent down.
Jeremy.
Okay, so we had
This
one
relationship's
sent
getting
round
rushed.
and another one that didn't object.
Which one do you want?
Has everyone had the opportunity
Yes.
to read what came through from the neighbour?
Yes.
The other
Yes.
neighbour? Okay.
Yes.
And the biggest point seems to be the one that Mr Williams dealt with, which is which side
Yes.
they are
Mm.
actually.
I think
thought that
that
was a misunderstanding.
Yes.
I think it was a misunderstanding, and I think that's been addressed, and I think
Okay.
people are reasonably content with that now. I
Okay.
had an opportunity of having a look at it over the weekend and managed to have a chat with Mr Williams as well. And as being the neighbour on the other side, it doesn't really affect us anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a point that you ought to just be clear about, that you don't arguably have an interest because it's on the
No,
opposite
no.
side of the house.
And but you know, I mean, it will change the appearance where the garage is going. But I think from a general perspective, I'm not got no objection at all.
Well, if the neighbours don't object.
Well, the one that side did, but
Yes.
I mean,
arguably on
but
the
now,
wrong
Yeah.
basis.
yes.
But I think that's the old basis of the neighbours talking to each other, because that's happened. It's dealt with the issue.
Anybody else?
No, no issues with it.
Okay, I won't object. So we are supportive of that.
Yes.
I think one thing for Mr Williams to just have in his mind is, I wouldn't be terribly shocked if they got very anxious about the grade 2 listing.
Yeah.
About what,
The
sorry?
grade 2 listing, because you're working
Oh,
within
yeah.
the curtilage of it.
Mm.
Now, I think you've been, or your architect has been sensible thinking of the oak-framed
Yeah.
Yeah.
building of the garage, you know, rather than a sort of precast concrete and an asbestos roof.
Yeah.
But it may well be that it doesn't actually get through on those grounds. I'm not capable of judging, but it wouldn't surprise me if you had trouble with it.
Mm.
You think there might be trouble? You think there might be trouble?
I wouldn't go that far. I'd say I wouldn't be surprised. We just know that in the past they can make awful fuss. It's not that you're doing anything to the building, you're doing it within what's called the curtilage of the building.
Yes.
And as you've already pointed out, you know, the front of the building with the trees and the grass is all part of its setting.
Yeah.
So you just have to find out. It'll be for the experts in Ashford, not for us.
Yeah.
We can't really deal with that.
But we're not
So we're
objecting.
supportive.
Yeah,
We're
we're
supporting
supporting.
anyway.
Yeah,
We
indeed.
move on.
So we will. The next one is Mains in stone with a little bit of Wittersham. Does anyone wish to comment on that?
I certainly wouldn't want to stand in the way of Mr Wade's wife doing more cooking in the
I don't think.
and looking out on the garden while she's doing it.
That should be a very interesting concept for YouTube.
Right. Does anyone?
No,
have
I've got no
any
objections.
other points?
No.
No, I was quite impressed.
Yeah, it's nice.
Supportive, okay, we're
Yeah.
supportive of that. And we've been notified by Yvonne here that the land on the south side of Parish Court Road, which was refused by Ashford twice, has now been appealed to the inspectorate.
Can I just add a
Please.
bit of information on this one? Peter Saville, who lives in Kingsgate, was running along the road and he met the occupant. Other people may know this. And he said, "Have you seen anybody loitering?" Because he just had a burglary.
Oh.
The man at Willow Farm.
Willow Farm.
Oh,
And he had 40. Yeah, you know, and you know, he's got lots of kit and stuff in there.
Yeah.
He'd had £14,000 worth of kit stolen.
When did this take place?
That was last. I got the email on. It happened, I think, last Wednesday night. Last Wednesday night. So I think it's possibly a sort of revenge type of thing. Do you see what I mean? It's possibly got, from where he comes from, he may have an enemy.
Sort of bite a bit, you think?
I don't know. I just don't know. But it just doesn't fit together with
No.
local.
I take it then that on that occasion he either wasn't in there or he didn't hear it.
I guess it had to be the latter. They took an awful lot of kit.
Yeah.
He must have been away and been watching.
So
Okay.
I don't know whether the police know about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
Well,
other
it
thing.
would if he reported it.
yeah.
Yes.
But then perhaps he hasn't. You see. It
Well,
would-
that's it.
Well,
Oh,
No, in fact, the email did say the police. No, in fact, the email did say the police had been and didn't seem terribly interested.
if it
Hang on.
was that
Yes.
much kit and it's sort of machinery, then I would have thought the Royal Task Force would be interested,
yes.
You would have thought so.
because that's what
A particular
they're going around
interest,
doing,
yeah.
feeling collars.
They seem to be majoring on activities like that, the police at the moment.
Absolutely.
Not relevant to the planning application, of course.
No, or the appeal.
Yeah.
You're bringing us back, George, are you?
He reported it to the police, and I mean, this is relevant to us, isn't it? Who came around to do some forensics, but otherwise seemed generally indifferent.
Can't answer that.
Got them on a good day then.
Now, I wanted to ask, because maybe Yvonne knows the answer to this, that the house across the road where the internal alterations application had been withdrawn, do we know the reason for the withdrawal?
No, and I keep meaning to follow it up because if it was retrospective,
Very odd.
so
Yes.
I want to know why
Mm.
they can withdraw something that's retrospective, because surely that.
Well, two things. Either they've been given the nod that it wasn't going to be successful, or they decided they can wing it.
It might have been withdrawn for rewriting. That's the other possibility.
That's a very noble suggestion.
Because what Ashford do is when, because it's an 18 application, 2018,
Ancient.
which means they go through and they try and clear things
Yeah.
that are old.
Yes.
So they probably went to the applicant and said, if they're still waiting for information on it, can we withdraw it and you reapply?
If and when.
Because they do say that they will hold on to the fee, and if you're going to
Because that's a listed building.
yes,
So,
exactly. But
That's
all the
why
stuff
you've
that's
already done the
inside.
work. Mm.
Yeah.
So that's something that I keep meaning to do. So
Mm.
it's on my
That's
list.
why it's internal alterations, but it's a listed building. So
Well, their history is they sought advice, were told, rather to their surprise, they couldn't possibly do any of this. They then did it,
Yeah.
and then applied,
Yes.
in that order.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, well, that could be tricky. I mean, if they were told they couldn't possibly do it.
Well, they got the sequence wrong. They should have done it and then asked.
Of course. Okay, let's move on then. Go on.
No,
What you going to say?
I'm going to say that I've heard. Do you remember we had what was known as the Parcel 2 land next to the one a bit of the Willow Farm, the
The chickens.
chickens.
Yeah.
Yes, I followed that
Oh, yes.
up as to the
Yes, I remember.
things that were put on there. Well, I've heard from Tony Jarvis, who is the whatever.
Enforcement man.
That's the man. I had visited the site twice. This was on the 6th of March. Came through because I asked
Yeah.
because they were supposed to come back within 10 days.
Yeah.
On the first occasion, the large residential mobile home shown in your photograph at right angles to the road was being broken up and removed from the land. The second mobile home, parallel with the road, is unoccupied and used as a tea room. On my second visit, the roof of the mobile adjacent to the road had blown off in recent winds. This site is a mess, and as you point out, a touring caravan and a container are on site. The lady owner who lives in Wittersham breeds goats. It is therefore a lawful agricultural activity. The container and the small caravan appear to be chattels on the land pursuant to the lawful use of the land. Unfortunately, it is difficult to take untidy site action against farmers because a defence would be that the condition of the land is attributable to the lawful use of the land. At the moment, therefore, there does not appear to be a serious issue, and therefore this is a low priority case. Having said that both my previous visits were brief, but I do need to go and make a more detailed survey. But that will be sometime in the future as resources allow. Unfortunately, we have a lot of high priority cases and a shortage of staff at the moment.
Fair enough.
So,
So presumably in the future we'll get the same response when we go back about Willow Farm.
Well, he's right about one thing, it is a hell of a mess.
Both of them.
I mean, the first one, the one we just had. Okay, so let's go on from that then. Thank you for that, Elon. COVID-19 review, latest information and any action needed. I thought that we needed to have this on the agenda. When we set the agenda last week, we didn't know where it would be. I think you're all seeing the daily, report, aren't you? Yes.
not always, because it's actually added, but it's now, because it was coming daily, it actually addressed to clerks and chairmen, so you haven't been having the latest
Yeah.
daily.
I get each one about 3 times.
Should
Should yours be one? Okay.
It's occasionally on the news as well. So
Only
Again.
Yes, I mean, it's coming out. And
There are so many rumours circulating now,
Right.
and some of which are even more alarming than what we've heard publicly.
I thought there was an interesting piece, I think it was in today's Times, in one of the stories I was just glancing at, saying that we here now are where Italy was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Italy is now 350 dead and 80,000 or some such number, or 40,000 affected. But then the interesting thing about that is that the number affected is the same as South Korea. And South Korea have had something like 1/5 of the deaths. So it really does vary. I mean, I'm not saying that South Korea is necessarily better than Italy. It's
Well,
just
South
that
Korea,
it
the
does
younger
yeah,
vary.
we say it depends on the age.
In
It's the main thing.
Italy's pretty old. I mean, they've stopped
Yeah.
breeding in Italy, basically,
yeah.
and it's an elderly
From
population.
one report that it's the oldest population, didn't we? Whether that was in Europe.
Italy.
It was the old. They had the
Yeah.
oldest.
In northern Italy.
And
Yes.
I mean, they don't have children there these days,
No.
No.
theoretically, nor in Spain, but, you know, it's
Because they want to dress all their kids in Armani.
Yeah,
So
I did
proportionally.
suggest to someone this morning it's also the effect of the olive oil diet, of course. It makes you very prone.
There is talk that, and that there's a, and it's probably just malicious rumour, but there is a germ warfare laboratory not far from the hospital in Wuhan.
I'd heard that.
Yeah, that's been going around for a bit.
As it, you have heard that one, sorry. And the other odd thing is that not everybody develops immunity in the way that you would normally expect. So people who've had proven coronavirus infection, then tested, and a fortnight later found to have no immune response, which is not a situation that my virology contacts are familiar with, which possibly suggests some tampering.
Or that it's not true.
Or that it's not true.
Okay, so before we just close this item on the agenda, I think all we can reasonably conclude with your, if you agree, is that by next month we don't know where we'll be.
No,
By
but
next week.
we are getting daily information.
But our next meeting will be next month.
But the peak will be in May. The peak will be
It
in
may be.
Yes.
In May. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Tonight I was saying it could peak in the next couple of weeks.
Well,
So it's
Proves the point.
anything goes. Nobody knows.
We will,
nobody knows.
it is interesting really that so far, although it's following an exponential path, it isn't going as fast as people were fearing a fortnight ago. Here. And China, although it may just be reporting, they're now saying they're getting less cases than we are. In other words, none. There we are.
Done a good job there, haven't they?
Yes, so I don't think there's anything else we can say on that. The next thing is KCC, school transport developments. Sent out the note that I put on next door. This was a bit of a lucky strike, really, and I think we stimulated it by pointing out to them that they were wasting money on the previous system. It's not all we want. There is still the issue of the free transport that we believe our children should be eligible for, but it has saved a little bit for the parents. One particular parent says, well, since they're going to have to put 3 children on it and they're now on 2 passes only, that's going to save them quite a bit. And they will get the extra benefit of being able to go to the pictures in Ashford or something without having to get another ticket and weekends. So it is an improvement. The other thing to say, because I'm quite happy about that, is that it really should save KCC quite a slug of money, although they're not acknowledging it. And we were, in the original email that I got leaked to me 10 days ago, we were the only parish council that was mentioned for the whole of Kent. We've got some other changes, but we were the only one that was mentioned. And it said something like, Wittersham Parish Council has been pressing for this change. And so we know that's good.
Well, as I said to you on the phone, I think we should congratulate Jeremy particularly for
Yes.
doggedly persevering with
Yes.
this.
I agree, absolutely.
And
Well
it is a
done.
victory.
I think it's a triumph.
It's a small,
Yeah.
it's a small victory on the way to a big one. I'd still like to get the big one,
Yeah.
but
No, you've
that's
done,
not within our hands.
you've done a lot of work and a lot of thinking about it. Thank you. You've done very well.
You think you should spend a whole day travelling on a bus just to celebrate?
With my bus pass.
Yes.
I mean, your negotiations changed the chairman of the education committee.
Yes.
I mean,
No, you're not promoted.
well, that, if you ever take them out, to take them up.
Yeah, kicked upstairs, as they say. Now leader of Kent
The other thing I was
Council.
saying the other day, we haven't. My daughter goes to school on the bus. We haven't heard anything yet officially from
No.
anybody about that. So,
No.
just
Well, that's
watch
one
this
reason
space.
why I wanted to get something out, because
Yeah.
it's only 3 weeks away.
I know. We certainly haven't heard anything.
It is known to the driver of the coach, because
Yeah.
he's been telling the children.
Well, I told my daughter, so she's been telling the children as
Oh,
well.
right. Okay.
Have they identified the times?
No. What I heard from KCC, the man I was dealing with, who was the manager of something buses, is that one of his team would let me know when they had established the schedule. And I haven't had that. Now, he may have forgotten, of course, but I haven't got it.
Perhaps that's what they're waiting for the parents now as well.
Well, absolutely.
Yes.
That was
Well,
nothing to
when
say.
it get confirmed, I mean, we
Yeah.
can't trust any of these things, but the guy I was dealing with in the bus department of KCC was very good in the sense
Yeah.
of replying straight away and always answering the questions as far as he could. And he did say, I asked particularly, and he confirmed that it will be scheduled for the arrival at Homewood, not scheduled for when it used to leave Lyd, which is probably about 6:30 or something.
Yeah.
Does that mean that the school have been informed about
No.
the people leaving?
I'm in there tomorrow afternoon, so
Yeah.
but I've not heard anything about the school.
Especially
so
about the children who will be going in September.
Yeah.
No.
Indeed.
Okay.
Pardon?
You were governor at Wittersham.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, it was at least a little bit of luck there. Right, thank you. Request from Royal British Legion to hold a tea party at the Memorial Garden and games on Coronation Field on the 8th of May to celebrate or commemorate, whichever you prefer, VE Day. George?
I asked Yvonne to put it on the agenda in case I had something actually to tell you about it, but perhaps all I have to tell you about it is that it's still the intention of the British Legion to do something on that day. I haven't been bowled over in the rush of people wanting to help me organise a tea party and games on Coronation Field. We're meeting with the head teacher at Wittersham Primary School on Friday to see how they may be involved, but she's already said the school isn't going to be open that day, so she can't see how they can contribute. But in the past when we've had the village fete and things like that, the children from the school have been very involved. So I don't think that's an issue, to be honest.
It's a sort of involvement they're talking about. Maybe
Yeah.
they're not going to march them up from the school.
Well, that's exactly what we used to do with them. But anyway, so we've got the Legion meeting on Thursday evening, and seeing the head on Friday evening. So we may know more. My other proposal that I've come up with, since people said they weren't interested necessarily in the Memorial Garden, was to hold a traditional tea party here on the afternoon, and have a small ceremony at the War Memorial in the morning.
That makes some sense, actually.
Yes, it does.
Because the village teas, they don't get everyone here, but the village teas have been quite popular. And
it's easy to organise. It's not weather affected, so it's. So that
the
was
other
my
thing,
idea.
just for me to put in from my own, what comes down to me, is that Ashford are sort of doing their best to try and push the boat out in the town, and encouraging everyone to take part in it, and that they were trying to find grants and this sort of thing. Now, obviously, we're not going to be doing very much, but it would be useful to be doing something. And if the usual isn't going to happen, then at least something different.
Yeah,
is the next one.
well, of course, yeah. I mean, the other issue is we might be right at the height of Corona, and it all got cancelled anyway. So 8th of May might be the peak.
It doesn't give a lot of time, though, does it?
Doesn't give it. No, it doesn't. Well, as usual, we always organise everything a year too late. So we had 100 years to organise the centenary of the First World War, and we missed that. So.
Right.
Can I just say, the only thing I was slightly concerned is you've got no toilet facilities.
If we went over there, we'd have to.
I thought
People would
that
have to
could be a
walk down
problem,
here. But no, that's the other reason for choosing here as well, really, because I would have thought majority of people are going to be older, and therefore we tend to need toilets more often.
So it would be Union Jack coloured cakes.
So anyway, that was my final proposal. But again, I'm still waiting for the rush. But,
I can see how that can work.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, George.
Okay.
Next thing is additional bank account. Would you like to talk about that?
Yes, obviously we have talked about this before, but I hadn't actually got anywhere with it. The fact that 85,000 is what we are guaranteed at the bank. We're under that at the moment, but once we get the precept in, then it will go over. I went to CALP to see what they suggest. Well, they can't recommend anything in their position, but they suggested, I looked at Unity, Co-op, Metro and the Bank of Ireland. Because Paul isn't at the meeting, I'd asked him for his views on things on the agenda, and this was one of them, and he suggested that I went to ARCK over it, and he thought that they were in the same sort of position and that they had gone to Metro. Metro comes up as the first, as far as I'm concerned, at looking at, because there's a branch in Ashford. And it's obviously easier to go somewhere and talk to somebody about your requirements and what they have. They have an interest account, a yearly one that you can have. You also have to have a running account with it as well, as it needs a community instant access account to run with it. But that might be something. So are you happy for me to go down the road and see what I can find out?
Except that after tomorrow, the interest you'll accrue on it will be absolutely vanishingly small.
But it's just that
1.65 is what they're talking about.
It alters the conditions of the account as well.
Yeah.
The
No, I think
key,
that's a good idea. And it's
the
a
key
fair
I think,
thing.
is just to lodge some money in there to
Yeah.
keep the current account lower.
Below 85.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got an agreement in principle. Is that enough for you to be able to get mandates approved? You'll have a minute.
Well, I think I'd have to come back and report on what I
Yes.
Next
meeting.
decide what.
So if we meet in May, April, if we meet in April, then we'll be able to confirm the minute of the one we've just done and agree, but then you won't have a minute that will have been confirmed of that. These things are all. How can we best deal with this? I don't see why we can't actually agree in
Principle.
Agree basically that we'll have. I mean, we don't have to do it. We'll agree that we will get an account open with Metro Bank, and that enables Yvonne to have a minute, which will agree that.
Yeah.
And obviously there will be forms to come round for the signature mandate and all the rest of it.
Which will be the point which we could change our minds if you wanted to.
We just don't have to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, that's right.
So we've confirmed that we want to do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Good. Right. Thank you. Arrange a date for the annual parish meeting and consider and agree the format. I put a little note for myself there, question mark virus, because now we're heading for annual parish meeting is April, isn't it? Yes.
Was it? Yeah.
Yes. So we're in the same boat as next. We usually go towards the end of April, don't we?
Yes. There is something came out via NULC that was to do with meetings like this and the virus, and they haven't come out with anything definite yet, but it's something to be borne in mind. So they are aware that there could be a problem having to hold the fact that we have to hold the meeting.
Yeah.
Well, like all these things, you may have to hold it, but you still don't.
Extenuating circumstances.
Okay.
If we do
So
hold
So
it,
do you want to
then-
put a date in?
I
or
thought we
do you-
thought it about St George's Day, 23rd of April. No? I thought the date had been mentioned previously. Was it me just having one of my
Yes, I
moments?
think so.
Might have been.
prophetic.
Will you be back by the 23rd of April?
That's a good question.
Depends on the agenda, I suspect. You have to put up with listening to me reporting on the fart last year, of course. You know what that's like.
Extended leave.
That's what George was thinking about.
Again,
The problem is with the 23rd that I'm not actually here on the 23rd.
That's a
Well,
good
you-
reason not to do it then.
What day is
you've been
it?
invited to.
Thursday.
Thursday evening.
So,
So the 16th was one that which is the Thursday before.
well,
It's also got not to clash with the film club one as well.
That's the
That's
first
it.
Thursday.
Yeah,
so it
so it can't
do
be that
No.
That's 2 hours.
So, it's the 9th or the 16th, but the 9th is in between, it's just before our meeting, so it goes to whether we have it before our meeting or after our meeting. Normal April meeting.
Oh, well, I have nothing on the 16th of April, so there's nothing obvious against
I'll
that.
have to look at that, yeah.
That's Easter time, isn't it? The 9th? Must
Yeah.
be. Monday,
Yes, it
Thursday.
is.
Thursday.
It's the day before
Mm.
Good Friday.
So 16th is better.
the 16th, yeah.
The 9th will also be before our parish council meeting.
Yes,
Yeah,
just
it's
yeah.
much
Yeah.
better on the 16th.
16th.
16th would be better.
7:30.
Yes,
7:30 or
Yeah.
7?
7:30. To enable all those that are working, all the parishioners that are working, to have them given a chance to get home and come to the meeting.
And the agenda?
Format, yes.
The other format? Are we
Whether
having a
we've done-
speaker?
Was this
How long does it normally go on?
how long?
Hours.
Depends on Jeremy.
No, I'm just looking. Actually, I've got to be up at sort of 5:30 the following morning.
Oh, we'll be finished by then, don't I?
Is it worth getting away?
You can go straight from here.
You'll have time for a quick breakfast.
On the train.
Yes, it's not normally because if we just do the basic meeting, it's just
No.
Mick Burgess giving his borough councillor's report, Mike Hill with the county councillor's report, and Jeremy with his, and anybody wanting to talk about anything afterwards.
Fine.
Yeah.
If we just go along with that,
9
which
o'clock.
with the current virus thing,
You
it
don't want
would
to spit
be
it out.
Short
Might not
speak.
even be able to have it.
exactly. So
Well,
if
we
we
might
just
find people just don't want to come, of course.
Mm.
At that stage, whether we do it or not.
probably a basic one at this
I think so.
this year might be the best.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
that's good. Right, good. Now get on to the clerk's expenses.
which we've all got a copy of.
We have.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So have we approved them?
See no problem.
Is anything? Oh, apart from the fact that the stamps, I've gone mad on stamps, but obviously they're going up on in April, so it made sense to.
Give you the checkbook, I will sign that since we've agreed it.
Yeah.
Good.
All good.
Sue's done it already. Just press the signature that we might not accept it. Is it a look?
I was going to say with that. Thank you, Jeremy.
Right. Okay, so that was that. Correspondence, the clerk, the account men of the trees competition entry.
Do we wish to enter?
We usually
We
do
usually
that.
do,
don't we?
yeah.
We never we never
Yeah, we could do with another tree.
Well, I'm
We'll see
warden,
that.
surely we'll want to
Yeah,
enter.
this is new as a new warden.
Yes,
Indeed.
the only, as the letter says, as we are a corporate member, well, as a corporate member, we pay £25 a year, so we don't pay to enter. However, we haven't actually been asked for any money since February 2018. So, if you're happy, it's normally £25 a year. So when I say yes, I might just say, I presume you would like our £25. So if they do say yes, are you okay if I then write a cheque?
It's only a pound a tree.
Are you going to pay for 2019 as well?
Yeah.
Yes, you
I'll
have.
go
Thank
for it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm all right with it.
you.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, the accounts right.
Air Ambulance are asking for donation again. We only got onto this one about 3 or 4 years ago, didn't we?
What contribution did we make last year?
Well, we waited to see how much money we got at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So we delayed it and then saw, and then gave half of what we got left between there and Porch Light, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then I suggested we send some to the homeless charities instead.
So should we do the same?
Yes, you weren't that keen on it last time, I remember.
No, until we actually split it. And we
Yes,
said-
so
That's
we
what
split
say
what
Porch
we
Light.
had left
Porch Light.
between.
So what you're suggesting that we do the same again, see what we've
Well,
got left and then
it's-
divide
Well,
it?
the thing is, we are now into March, which is the end of the financial
Basically,
year.
at the end of the year.
Which did I bring it?
Yes, it's
Yes,
got to
I
be
did
done
bring
this
it.
month, otherwise we
Oh,
pass the
right.
end.
So you do.
So I can tell you,
What did we give them last year?
it was £60 each
Oh.
I gave them last year.
We're not talking about large amounts of money, George.
So far we've spent 375, and I think our budget was 600.
Right.
So we've got £225 that we haven't got left.
But do we need to keep some for anything?
Well,
or not?
no, because
No,
This is
Well,
now
we're
last
at the
year.
end of
last
the year.
month.
no, this is last month.
Yeah.
I would suggest it's distributed to
You can
whichever
certainly
causes
give-
we agree.
You
Yeah.
can certainly
Because
give
we
£60
had-
again,
Because I did
or you
get
could do more.
an email from Porchlight recently saying
Yeah.
thank you very much in the past, and you can
Yeah.
do this, that, and the other. They weren't actually asking
No, but
for
the
money,
message,
but
there's been a number of letters going around, a number of organisations.
Yes.
We haven't had any other requests. Well,
no.
What I do know is that having sat on their grant panel a few months ago, and when I saw Jerry, which I'll talk about later, Jerry Clarkson last week, he was talking about particularly Ashford supporting the homeless charities in Ashford. There's
Yes.
quite significant money in their case, of course,
Yeah.
being bigger.
Yes.
You know, I mean, 10,000 here and 10,000 there.
Yeah.
Oh, couldn't be a better cause.
so we could afford 100 each, couldn't we?
You good? Right, is that agreed?
Yep.
Yes.
Fine, good.
Put my face on the ambulance.
Right.
Yes, it's
Um,
isn't it?
Working party reports. The caretaker, anything?
I have just got under correspondence for noting, just to bring it into this month, Lloyds Bank are changing their terms and conditions.
Again.
Again.
They all are.
But a lot of it doesn't affect us because it's fees
Yes.
and charges
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
we don't
Okay.
pay anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. caretaker.
Well, just to say that he is spending an awful lot of time clearing drains and redoing grips at the moment. He's just going round all the villages, just doing what he can.
And he can't cut grass.
We have had the Coronation Field. It was agreed at a previous working party meeting that the edge was flailed back so that we get rid of all the brambles, and that has been done. And then we can keep it clear.
I do think it's a shame they failed the trees as well.
Yes, but that's what I've asked staff to sort of.
Yeah.
But apparently that bit at the end was planted as a copse, but had just left. Nobody ever did anything with it, so which was a shame.
Right. Okay, thank you. Monthly transaction statement you've all got.
Yeah.
Are there any questions about that?
I think that's all self-explanatory.
You've got the brush we talked about last time.
Yes.
It's straightforward.
So can I sign the accounts? Yeah. You're here.
Thank you.
Right, good. Planning, the one we already talked about before, the decision that came in, the listed building consent for various alterations that were retrospective was withdrawn by the applicant. I also queried that on here. Bud's Farm Barn, the subdivision of the existing holiday cottage over by the Vines, 2 separate holiday lets was granted. The beaches, the variation of conditions was permitted. Cuckoo Cottage that we just considered, I think, last month was granted. Lording's Oast, the change of use for the array of photovoltaics, granted. Right. Might be worth saying, by the way, just since this reminds me to tell you, I just heard from a source last week that the planning department in Ashford is in some version of CHOS.
Some version of
CHOS, chaos.
well, it's been in that.
No, I mean worse.
Even worse chaos.
Worse, yeah. The guy that we've had dealings with in charge, Tim, what's his name? Naylor. Tim Naylor's resigned. He's working his notice, and he's going back to London again, where he came from. Simon Cole, I believe, is standing in. He's the man who writes the plan, and they are desperately short. It is, and I don't think it's only Ashford, but Ashford in particular have a planning department in a bit of a state.
And it's interesting because I get the stuff being in Rother. I get emails on a regular basis, and they give you the vacancies, and there was a whole planning this, planning that, about 3 or 4 planning positions, and that's Rother.
And presumably Mick's the man who will know, though, isn't he? I mean, you're the man who, he's chairman of the planning committee.
Oh, yes.
So next time he'll be able to give
it
us.
wasn't Mick I heard from, though. It was another parish council that is more involved in and they're more underwater with planning problems, much nearer to Ashford. It was one of the other chairmen that told me.
Interesting.
And as I say, Tim Naylor, who came about 2 or 3 years ago as the new boss and has been helpful. He's the one who wrote the reply on the Swan for us, saying that they weren't going to be they would be very lucky to get anywhere with their plans.
So does that mean there's going to be delay on?
Could easily be. I mean, they will either be skimping them or they will be struggling to finish them.
But it's just that the last 2 that we considered the month before have come through really quickly.
Well, that's right, very quickly.
Yeah. So will it keep our fingers crossed? I don't think there's anything to do, is it?
No.
Okay.
So just worth mentioning what I thought of it. Okay, so we're down to highways.
I'd just like to just update on, as I think Sue said earlier, that they put bollards around 18
Yes.
the drain. A couple of weeks ago, 27th of February, I emailed Earl Boulier? Earl Borner, who is manager of the drainage system, whatever. Jeremy had been in contact with him, so I haven't got that name, I went straight to him. I took photos of the water still running down the road. The road was dry, so it wasn't just because we'd had a lot of water, it was still coming out of this drain and running down the road. I took photos of the next 2 storm gullies, which are proud because the water running down the road has formed a gully beside the road, so no water can now go into these. So I sent photos of those and said, please can you do something? It's really not good enough. I did say I appreciate you must have lots of problems like this, but... So he actually came back and has said, I've arranged for the drain and the system to be cleaned and investigated. Works will be completed within 28 days. That was on the 28th of February. Well, I put in my diary, and I've given them the benefit of 28 working days. I put it in my diary to make sure that it's done by then.
Yeah, well, as I said before you all arrived, I think that it is actually better on drains now. I'm not saying they fixed it, but compared to when they did absolutely nothing and didn't reply to emails or anything, it is better than it was. They've also got Conway as the new contractor, and I think they're probably better.
We've got 3 working in the street now, about 6.
Well, that's 3 that you didn't have before. Right, public rights of way.
Well, I see everybody knows they're just getting worse and worse.
Indeed. We've never heard anything back. Well, of course, I think we know the answer. The one that George wants sorted because of course line drains.
It's Tim Piper there, waiting.
Yeah.
I was up there I'm up there every morning taking my dog out, but you can see that it's like a stream coming down there now, and it is coming from that corner. Because it should
well,
go
there was a
there.
stream. There was a
stream.
stream.
I know, that's what I mean. But
Originally.
the stream is back, but it's flowing down there instead of going down there. That's the issue. So.
I was talking to Jo when I bumped into her about 2 weeks ago and asked her what was happening, and I can't remember what the detail was, but I think she reckoned that Piper had got some reason why he couldn't do it at the minute. Oh, partly it's because he wants, well, too wet, but partly I think he wants a quid pro quo off of Terry, which Terry's
Carl's going to do Carl's doing a roof.
Right, okay. Open spaces, Alan, Leslie.
I think they're still open.
Right.
Wet and open. But
Very
and space, right. Cemetery and churchyard.
Wet and open.
Just to say that Alpha's now got signs, I'm not sure whether he's put them up, to say that no dogs, because we had the dog there, no dogs except for guide dogs allowed in the cemetery, so they will go up. It's
good.
Just paid
before the chain that he put across had a sign on it saying no cars beyond this point, and then it disappeared. Is it back again? It was there for a little while, and then it seems to have gone.
I think the problem is that we did have issues with people that aren't able to walk down there because it was locked, but now the chain can be taken off, so that it's what we're hoping, it's discouraging people. People see a chain and won't
But the sign's
use it.
gone.
Yes.
Okay, I just wondered if someone had taken it.
No, that was the did have an issue.
When the grass starts cutting in the churchyard, there could be a problem, couldn't there, with the digging that's gone on?
Around there.
Yes.
So he might have a bit of problem negotiating a bit. But
That would be Robert.
Yes, that's Robert. I will mention
Yes, that's a huge job that it's turned into, isn't it? I suppose they always knew it was going to be. So.
I think it was bigger than they thought it was going to be.
It's certainly taken them time.
Okay.
Well, I'm told that they're hoping by June now.
Really?
Because they've had so much problem to find where the drain was, but they found it now.
Oh, right.
So hopefully, then they can get inside.
Right. Okay, Village Hall Committee, George.
We haven't met since our last meeting, but only the only thing to report really is that we're continuing to have maintenance problems. We've had one leak above the storeroom, and then with the rain last Thursday, we actually had rain coming in the main hall. It brought some tiles down, so we'll need to investigate that, but I haven't had a chance to get up a ladder yet.
The other roof, but that's not the same because it's tiles.
Yeah, it's tiles. It's tiles. But I think what had happened is just the volume of water managed to get in, and it soaked a tile and the insulation.
Gone through.
It popped down. It's only one tile came down, but brought a load of rubbish down with it. But, so we need to look into that. But other than that,
You made a little box up here.
I haven't made a little box. When
No,
I finished refitting my kitchen at home, it's next on my list.
You probably have a bit left over.
Yeah, made out
A
of
bit of
cabinet.
worktop. Yeah. All right. Next planning meeting to be advised. That's not likely to happen. The next parish council meeting is 14th of April. Items for information. I've got meetings to report on. Does anyone else have any items for information?
No, thank you.
No.
Okay. Right.
I don't know if it's important or not. I had a letter today from Ashford about they'd had complaints about vegetation overhanging from my meadow, and I think it's
overhanging from your meadow onto the road.
onto the road, so it's affecting buses and that. It's just to say that it was the intention to get all those ash cut down at the beginning of this year because they have got ash dieback. It's just been too wet to do it.
So it's on Poplar Road?
Yeah.
Your meadow's on there.
Anyway, it will be done as soon as possible this month.
Right, okay. Right, in terms of meetings, the meeting I had with Jerry Clarkson last Tuesday, this was in my capacity as chairman of Count Ashford. I've met him before, but not in his office. All I wanted to do was establish a relationship which we could then use in future. It was about 90 minutes, it was very cordial. I raised a few things with him as of issues of concern to parishes, but I wasn't trying to negotiate them at that point. It was really just throwing them in as things that will be a matter for discussion at some point. Roads and infrastructure to precede house building, which is one of the things that's come out in COUT meetings. Well, everyone wants that. The Chilmington Green error was a problem where they didn't do the road in time for the houses, and we all know about that. It was acknowledged that it's a problem, but he said it's difficult. The ABC 2030 plan that we've got, that's now going under review. We talked about the 5-year housing target. You know the system, I think, probably, the way they have a so-called objectively assessed 5-year target for house building that they have to provide enough space for, including opportunistic. And then if they fall below that, they can't actually demonstrate where their 5 years of land is, then some of the people like Gladman can come along and say, well, we haven't got your 5-year target, so we want to build there. And it's very difficult to stop them. Now Ashford made their target in terms of the plan that they came out with the year before last and last year, but they're always pretty close. And he's saying, well, you know, he'd like to actually establish a better margin so that it's safer, but it's difficult. And of course, you can only establish that margin by finding more places to plan houses. There was the question of adopting SIL, which is Community Infrastructure Levy, which is a new approach to getting money out of developers, instead of the Section 106, which is what we have at the minute, and which you've heard of before. SIL comes in when a planning authority adopts it. They have the right to adopt it, but they don't have to adopt it at the minute. And they're all pretty slow. I think really they don't like it very much. If SIL was adopted, then the parish council, where anything happens, automatically gets 20% of it, or 40, I think it is, if they've got a neighbourhood plan, or maybe it's 15 and 30, something like that. And not surprisingly, he said, no, we're not ready to adopt SIL yet. But on the other hand, he felt that they could have been a bit more generous. Well, you know, they're not very generous. Some of the parishes are much more anxious about that than we need be, because frankly, there's never going to be any great money coming our direction, because we're never going to have very many houses. The people are getting 200 houses built here and there. There's a lot at stake. The ABC vision, that I went to the presentation and workshop a few weeks ago, and you and I are going in another few weeks to hear what I thought was feedback, but it seems we're going to have another next week, is it? It's another load of group working and thinking about this and that. They all seem to be hooked on that now. I told him that I thought it was pretty well done, and I look forward to the feedback. Then we've also got the Ashford Corporate Plan, which we put in a questionnaire for a month or 2-3 ago. That's going to come up at the parish forum in April, which I go to, but the plan's been delayed. They're not going to do it till the autumn. I put in a plug for Michelle Byrne, who we know, and I don't know if some of the others of you do, said that she works very well as the parish council sort of liaison and the grants officer. He described her as a young lady. I pointed out that she's a grandmother.
Could still be young.
Yes, she is young. So that was the meeting with Jerry. We had a calc planning subcommittee meeting at Shaddockshurst the next day. This is an offshoot of the calc meeting at Ashford that are really driven by the vice chairman of the Ashford calc. We had two issues to discuss mainly, both to do with housing. One of them is less concern to us. The parishes in the outer ring around Ashford are very anxious not to be joined onto Ashford, as it just keeps coming out and out and out. So David has written, and we discussed it, a huge paper. It's just come out again, rather longer than it was before. There's 8 pages of it here, which is the sort of views on what should be done to stop this encroachment. That's one of the issues. The second one is because the chairman of Charing Parish Council, Jill Leyland, is a professional statistician. I mean, really a professional statistician. And she is unhappy because, she put a letter into Jerry at Ashford about a month ago, here it is, pointing out that from her statistical knowledge, the way in which the government requires all the planning authorities to work out their 5-year housing target, statistically it doesn't add up very well. Firstly, they have to do it from 2014 base instead of the 2016, which is the newer ONS figures. Secondly, seemingly all they do when they project forwards is look backwards, and there are good reasons for saying that's not right statistically. There are good reasons for saying that that doesn't hold good, and so the 5-year target is too big. Now, if you think of this from Jerry's point of view, I don't know what he's going to do about it. He's mandated by the government as things stand. If he wants to get further ahead of his target, the neatest way of doing it is to cut the target. Then it's easier then. Now, that we discussed, and what we're going to do with it, it'll be on the meeting at Calc tomorrow again. She's also suggested that we ought to be taking it up with Damien Green, MP. Now, he got a letter from Calc with all Kent MPs a month ago, which is also here, saying in different terms really, but the housing has gone as far as it can. Things are really crazy and we can't carry on like this. There's a letter that went from Maidstone, which I've got here, Maidstone Borough Council, signed by a load of people, including one of their MPs. The other one said to support it, but one of them, Helen Grant, signed it as well. That's gone off to the Secretary of State, complaining bitterly about the housing targets, because they are in the middle of their plan from 2011 to 2031, I think. They're in the middle of their plan, and they are on, at the moment, 800 houses a year, which they are keeping up with. And they've been told that from 2023 it's got to go up to 1,200 and something. And they've said it can't be done, not least because they don't think anyone will be willing to build them. So You know, all these things, the interesting thing is there are all these strands, but they're all saying this can't carry on. Trouble is, it's a legal requirement from the government, and it does give certain planning options or openings for the pirate developers to come along and just demand that they can get a site through and go to appeal and get it. So, you know, the lid's going to blow off sooner or later, but it is all getting a bit tricky. So I think that's probably all to say on... Oh yes, one of the things that Calc said that I don't think I'd picked up to all the MPs is that the national target was 300,000 a year for houses, and we all know that, we've heard it on the television. The Conservative manifesto for the election in December said 200,000. But it hasn't dropped into the targets yet. So it's a bit of a mess. The other thing then to mention, and you've already had a note, so I won't say very much about it, the meeting with the Police and Crime Commissioner and the Assistant Chief Constable Local Policing at Ditton last week, which I went to with Calp. It was the first meeting that Peter Ayling, the new ACC, attended. I thought he was very good. He very young, 22 years a policeman, including 7.5 in the Met, but really a Kent man, I think. So he was very good. The meeting was productive. You've had the separate note of what we covered. The elections for the PCC are being held on the 7th of May because his 4 years have come up. He will be standing. And of course it's a political issue. I have personally found him very good. I've seen him about 4 times now, and his speaking is very good. But we'll see what happens at the election. Okay, they're the meetings I've been doing. I don't have anything else that I can think of at the moment. Nobody else? Nothing else?
No.
Nothing.
Okay, so we can close